Yeah, I guess the thinking on mine was, well, first, obviously, I wanted to have the bottle capability. And most packs, if they have a place to hold bottles, it's in the back. It can be kind of hard to get to. So I wanted to have a pack with the bottles up front. And that was something that we ended up doing in all three vests because we all had that same idea. But for me, as I'm pretty known for not running with a lot of stuff. And so this is super stripped down, really minimal. Like Buzz said, 6 ounces for the whole thing. My main purpose was I wanted to be able to have the lightest possible package for carrying mandatory gear in European races. Most races in Europe require mandatory gear of some kind. It's usually a windbreaker, cell phone, whistle, et cetera, and so the pack on the back here is really just big enough for that. And then the bottles are obviously loaded up front. We have other little pockets, pill pocket below the bottles, gel pockets above the bottles, and then zippered pockets in the back for valuables, and then adjustability on the sides, or on the sides for different sizes. That's really all there is to it. I don't use it just in races, obviously, especially since it's been getting colder. I've been wearing it a lot for carrying extra layers, for going in the high mountains, and that's pretty much it. I guess just, yeah, the main thing was having the ability to carry the bottles up front, and it is still compatible with traditional bladder reservoir, so if that's what you like doing, you can use it for that too, and that pretty much covers it.
I was involved with the design of the largest of the three of these vests, the largest capacity. This has capacity to carry 12 liters of stuff. And since I've really been much more focused on long sort of solo adventures than racing, I had some pretty specific needs for what I wanted to see in the vest. And I wanted to be able to carry things like, crampons and ice axe, because I'm often up in the mountains for a long period of time. It involves some scrambling, maybe some snow climbing, Mount Rainier, things like that. So I wanted to be able to carry things like crampons and axe, maybe some trekking poles. There's tie downs for trekking poles, which I also was pretty adamant about making it that you could get the trekking poles on and off the pack without taking the pack off, which is a bit tricky. But also just a little bit more volume, this sort of bellows design, so that you could carry more clothes for a longer tour, 24 hours out on your own. You might need clothes, it gets cold at night or it rains. And I've done plenty of trail runs myself of that style where you're carrying all the food that you need for 24 hours or longer. And of course, having the bottles easily refilled from streams and so on and so forth. Also, another feature was to have the ability to carry a satellite locator beacon such as a spot, which is a helpful thing to have when you're doing solo stuff, because if you break your ankle, you don't want that to be the end of yourself. So we have these little pockets up in front where you can put your spot and get at it. And many other features. They're similar to the other packs, but just a few more features. So large side pockets that are easy to get at on the run. The little gel pockets up here by the bottles that are super accessible. Again, these shoulder pockets that you can put food or your spot unit. And tons of room in the back here.
Basically, as Buzz said, another big reason too I wanted the bottles up front, besides the fact that I got weak and I wasn't doing my curls all the time, so I couldn't carry double bottles. But if you carried double bottles for a number of years like myself, I started racing over in Europe and used trekking poles for some of the races like Ultra Trail Tour de Mont Blanc, and you can't carry handhelds if you're used to racing that way. So I retrofitted one of my old Wasp packs, and in Europe you find the bottles up front. But as Tony mentioned, a lot of people ask, well, what if I don't like to use bottles? The way we designed it, you can use these pockets for other things, whether it's gels. So you don't have to use bottles. You can use a 10-ouncer. You can use your 500 centiliter bottle that you get at a grocery store as far as a water bottle. But then it's totally set up so you can run a hose and use your traditional bladder. But the big issue is I didn't like how even the Wasp weighed a ton. I'm a big believer you shouldn't be carrying pack weight. So I use this type of pack when I run long days up in the mountains where I'm up there for 8 hours, 10 hours. And some of you might be, folks who just run 5, 10Ks or marathons, and you just hike. It's a great way to carry everything that you need. So, and it's having it accessible, because when you're racing, you want to be able to access your gel pockets, Velcro pockets. You can put a phone up front. As Peter mentioned, you can use a GPS. And then having the pockets separate too was really key. On the back here, we're using the lightweight Cuban fiber, which keeps things, basically sweat, from getting from the inside through the mesh, which is super lightweight and breathable, which is great. But then when you put stuff that you don't want to get as wet, you can put that back there. So there's 2 dividers, and then you get your bladder too, which can sometimes sweat. So zippered pockets in the back, stretch mesh. So there's, believe it or not, 9 liters that you can put in this pack. So for me, that's always been a big issue. I tend to carry a bit more food than Tony. I end up actually feeding him on some training runs, and some other. So I'm basically Tony's aid station. So I need a bigger pack. That's why I went. So, but it's a secret. But yeah, I like to carry burritos and things like that, and it just helps to have a little bit more room. And then clothes too, like Tony says. I mean, that's basically having something that you can use year round. That's lightweight, doesn't slow you down. And then when I run stuff in the desert too, drier, as Peter mentioned, going eastward, or if you go to Moab in the desert in the wintertime, you don't have water all around like we do up in the high country here. So you've got to have access. So sometimes you need 40 ounces up front and then a 60-ounce bladder in the back. So I think I went through a few, but really take one of them off, take it off the cardboard, and just see how light they are. You really just got to try it out rather than me go through all the features.